Welcome to the Clara and Horatio Daily World Brief for Thursday, August 6, 2026. This briefing is available at claraandhoratio.com. In this briefing, I want to jump straight into the crisis in the Levant because the U.S.-sponsored ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah is actively unraveling.
It really is. For the first time since June 28th, we are actually seeing Israeli military fatalities inside Lebanon. 2 soldiers were killed, and 4 others were seriously injured by an improvised explosive device, an IED.
And this happened in Majd al-Zoun, right? How does that specific location disrupt the mechanics of the ceasefire? I mean, this was supposed to be a pilot zone for the Lebanese army.
Exactly. The pilot zones require a predictable vacuum. So if Israel is withdrawing troops, they need an absolute guarantee that the Lebanese army is the only armed force moving into that space.
Right, so an IED detonation proves Hezbollah is not only present, but actively setting asymmetric traps in those exact transitional areas.
You hit the nail on the head. Israel immediately perceives that as a structural collapse of the agreement. They've already launched retaliatory airstrikes, including one on a cemetery prayer hall in Tibnan that left 1 dead and 12 injured.
Wait, and that has triggered a return to mass displacement, hasn't it? The military just issued new evacuation orders for Mansouri.
They did, yeah. It's the first new evacuation order for that town since mid-June, and they are accusing Hezbollah of a blatant violation of the truce.
It's a grim reminder of how fast diplomatic frameworks evaporate on the ground. But this vulnerability isn't limited to traditional military theaters. If we look at Ukraine, the deliberate targeting of civilian logistics is intensifying.
The statistics from the Black Sea are just staggering. July was actually the deadliest month for merchant seamen since the start of the war, as Russia systematically attacks civilian vessels and port infrastructure.
I mean, we're talking about ordinary workers here. I was reading about Svetlana Halchenko, a warehouse shift manager in Odessa, who is literally going to work with shrapnel still in her leg.
Yeah, she had to watch her crane operator partner die just 5 meters away from her. It really highlights the brutal psychological toll of maintaining a commercial port under constant ballistic threat.
But structurally, what is preventing the state from, protecting these workers? Why can't they get to safety?
It comes down to a fatal math problem based on geography. A missile launched from Russian-occupied Crimea takes roughly 1 minute to reach Odessa.
Just 1 minute, so a crane operator high above the docks doesn't stand a chance.
Right, because they need about 3.5 minutes just to climb down to a reinforced shelter.
That physical vulnerability really came into focus when the Golden Leo sank, didn't it?
It did. That Turkish-owned cargo vessel was carrying Ukrainian corn and got struck by 3 missiles. 9 crew members from India and Syria, plus a Ukrainian pilot, were tragically killed.
And that kind of infrastructural vulnerability is now reaching deep into Western Europe. Let's look at Germany, because at Leipzig-Halle Airport, federal prosecutors just took over a very alarming investigation.
They did. And having federal prosecutors step in is a massive indicator of severity. A drone, rigged with professional explosives, was defused right near a Ukrainian Antonov cargo aircraft.
I want to push back on the early media narrative there, though. Initial reports claim that the plane was packed with munitions for Ukraine, but the German Interior Ministry confirmed the aircraft was completely empty.
That's a crucial detail. The last munitions transport flight was actually back on July 29th. So if the plane was empty, it suggests the primary goal was pure terror and infrastructural disruption.
Which perfectly aligns with Interior Minister Alexander Dobryn's warning. He specifically called out a new level of danger from foreign powers.
Exactly. These small multicopters can easily evade legacy radar systems designed for large commercial aircraft. The fact that it wasn't detected until it was practically on the runway exposes a massive gap in European security.
And that external security threat is happening while Germany faces immense internal pressure from extreme climate shifts. The European heatwave is taking a devastating human toll.
The numbers are horrific. The German Public Health Institute estimates that nearly 12,000 people have died from heat-related causes in Germany so far this year.
That's a massive spike, and the drought is causing these bizarre, dangerous side effects, like the Rhine River dropping so low it exposed an unexploded World War II bomb in central Cologne.
Yeah, that forced a mass evacuation right near the city's main train station. And the agricultural impact is just as severe, primarily due to biological timing.
Right, because the extreme heat hit precisely during the flowering period for corn, meaning the crops are failing to form cobs. Without the cobs, the yield mathematically plummets.
Precisely. So German farmers are having to abandon traditional methods, relying on French wheat genetics that are used to warmer climates, and even experimenting with soybeans.
It's an incredible structural adaptation, but while agriculture can pivot to new genetics, Germany's legendary auto industry is just getting crushed by a sudden erosion of market predictability.
Chinese electric vehicle competition is devastating the domestic sector. Even with a roughly $3.4 billion German government subsidy scheme for EV purchases, Chinese manufacturers like BYD are the ones seeing massive sales growth.
The public impact of that is generational. We're looking at BMW cutting 8,000 jobs globally, Porsche shedding 5,000 in Germany, and Volkswagen planning to slash up to 100,000 jobs.
Not to mention Volkswagen moving to close 4 German factories. Their legacy structural model relies heavily on in-house production, which requires massive labor.
Because traditional combustion engines need thousands of moving parts, whereas EVs are essentially, just large batteries on skateboards, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
EVs need a fraction of the parts and labor. Combined with German factory costs being twice those of international competitors, Volkswagen's legacy labor model is mathematically broken.
Before we move on to how this economic anxiety is playing out globally, I want to quickly mention that for more daily briefings, brain candy explainers, and classic audiobooks, you can visit clarinhoratio.com. Now, looking at the U.S., that structural anxiety just delivered a massive upset in the Michigan Senate primary.
It really did. Progressive challenger Abdul El-Said defeated the heavily funded establishment Democrat Haley Stevens.
And El-Sayed overcame a $32 million funding disadvantage, including huge money from AI PAC. What does that signal about the current mood of the electorate?
It signals a profound rejection of corporate influence.
Yeah.
El-Said ran an unabashedly left-wing campaign focused on affordability, and grassroots mobilization proved more resilient than broadcast advertising saturation.
So voters are tuning out the expensive TV ads in favor of direct community-level engagement regarding their economic survival.
Exactly. El-Said, who is a former health official, really capitalized on that. His campaign was heavily focused on government-sponsored health insurance and taxing the wealthy.
And that victory sets up a very high-stakes general election against Republican Mike Rogers. It's going to test whether a populist, anti-corporate message can actually win a crucial battleground state.
Meanwhile, we're seeing a totally different kind of civic frustration boiling over in India, driven by youth disenfranchisement. The cockroach movement is gaining serious momentum.
Yes, catalyzed by activist Sonam Wangchuk, who just completed a 26-day hunger strike over government exam leaks. But the leaks are just a symptom, aren't they?
Right, because the broader economic reality is that graduate unemployment in India has been hovering around 35 to 40% for a quarter of a century.
That's astonishing. So the examination system relies on multiple choice efficiency rather than assessing actual skills.
Exactly. It is fundamentally failing to prepare students for a job market that can't absorb them anyway.
So the leaked exams just prove to the youth that even this flawed high-pressure system is completely rigged against them.
Yes. The protests actually forced the education minister's resignation in late July.
And the political damage is real. The ruling DJP just lost key by-elections, proving that when basic functional pathways fail, the anger can pierce entrenched political strongholds.
And India is having to manage this domestic unrest while simultaneously caught in a fierce diplomatic row with Bangladesh.
This involves ousted Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, right? She fled to India after that huge student-led uprising.
Yes, and she just held a press conference in New Delhi vowing to return to Bangladesh in December.
Which has absolutely infuriated Dhaka. They are outraged that India gave a platform to someone they explicitly label a convicted genocider facing a death sentence.
It's viewed as a direct affront to Bangladesh's sovereignty. The foreign ministry is vehemently demanding her extradition.
The rhetoric is so jarring, too. Hasina claims she's ready to face her fate, while her son publicly boasts about the head of state treatment she's getting from Prime Minister Modi's government.
Executing an extradition treaty for a former head of state, who was a close ally of New Delhi, is politically toxic for the Modi administration, but the optics are severely complicating regional diplomacy.
This theme of institutional failure leads us right into the stewardship of public goods. Let's look at FIFA, where President Gianni Infantino is trying to sell a minority stake in the World Cup to private investors.
The proposed subsidiary would bring in billions of dollars, with the primary investor linked to Thrive Eternal, headed by Joshua Kushner.
But there's massive backlash from UEFA and the German Football Association. They view the sport as a cultural institution, not just a commercial asset to be chopped up.
Right. Selling a minority stake crosses a red line for them. It shifts accountability from long-term sporting development to quarterly private shareholder returns.
That privatization of a cultural good parallels the literal poisoning of physical public resources in the UK. The new government data on English rivers is just horrifying.
It really is. Every single surface water body in England has failed chemical pollution standards.
Wait, every single one. A 100% failure rate across all rivers, lakes, and estuaries.
100%. The waters are laced with PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals, along with mercury and banned flame retardants.
And this ties directly to privatization, doesn't it? Since the UK privatized its water sector in 1989, companies have paid massive dividends while chronically underinvesting in the actual infrastructure.
Precisely. They allowed untreated sewage and agricultural runoff to flow freely, and officials admit the waters won't reach good chemical status until 2063.
So citizens are expected to just accept polluted water for the next 4 decades. It's an incredible admission of regulatory defeat.
It represents a fundamental breakdown in the state's ability to protect its most basic resources from commercial exploitation.
Looking at all these sources, what is the core pattern here for our listeners to mull over?
Well, look at the through line of these events. Whether it's the inability to track an explosive drone at a German airport, the failure to secure fair exams for Indian students, or the resignation that English rivers will remain polluted for the next 4 decades, we are witnessing a profound crisis in the basic regulatory capacity of the modern state.
So it's not just a matter of what governments will do to protect their citizens, but what they actually still can do. Thank you for joining us for this briefing. We invite you to explore debate candy or brain candy and find more daily analysis at clarineratio.com.